Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night from wherever you may be joining us from, and welcome to Art Shouts, the art and well-being podcast segment with your host, Carolyn Renée, Executive Director here at the Arts Exchange. Our podcast is produced at the Arts Exchange in East Point, Georgia, and it centers the voices of creative artists who intentionally use their art to bring healing to others. And I am so honored today to have joining me all the way from the UK, Ade Anifowose, a transformational agent, metaphysical rebel, wisdom warrior, soul whisperer, and love spreader. He is a sacred drummer on a mission to bring true love, deep peace, and mutual respect and understanding to all humanity. Ade, welcome.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can feel and hear that you've been researching me.
Well, I was I gave a blurb because that was a whole page, right? And I was like, no, I'm not going to
I-
sit here and read all this.
You're not meant to read all of that. No, please.
But I thought I would just at least say to you how I want you to let us know how you want us to know you today. How are you known today? You share with us.
Well, the first thing I have to say, because I want to say it, that's why I have to say it, is, as you said, my name is Ade Anifowose. I am the son of Alimi Anifowose, the son of Esther Anifowose. And my mother, she's made her transition, so she's in ancestral realm. So I've got both of them holding it together. My dad in the physical realm and my mom in spiritual realm. So I know I'm good. And so with that foundation, I am here for God. I'm here to serve. I am very clear that what I'm doing, the work that I do, how I express, show up in the world is what I'm destined, designed to do. So, I'm I used to say many years ago that I'm a freelance agent for God. So, excuse me. Sometimes I may be doing a podcast. Next minute, I'm doing some healing work over here. Sometimes I'm drumming. Sometimes I'm working with young people. Sometimes I'm working with adults. Because there is no spot where God is not. So wherever I am, God is, and the work continues.
I love that, Ade, and I feel the same way about myself. We'll have to have that conversation offline so I can figure out how to get a passport or a ticket in that because I feel the same way. But this is
Yes.
about you, and drumming is a gift, and you love to share it, right? And
Yes.
so, when did you discover this gift and that you had a purpose with the drum?
Speaking of being a freelance agent for God, so I was born in the UK, and so the first 4 years was in UK, and then my parents and I moved back to Nigeria. I don't think I had a choice in the matter. It's like they're going back, I was going. But I remember in secondary school, which would be high school in America, there was these two brothers. We had a society called Yoruba Society, and their mother was teaching Yoruba, and they were just amazing drummers. And I watched them do all kind of thing with the drum. Now, I've never drummed before. I didn't have a drum, but when I look at them, I felt like I can drum. But I felt too insecure, didn't have the confidence to even ask them if I could do it. So I stand there just like, I want to play the drum. But I never did. However, there were times when I'd be tapping on a table. And sometimes when I do it around friends and family, I'm doing it because it's just natural. And then I find myself wanting to hear if someone's going to say something about it. I don't remember anybody saying like, "Oh, look at you, you can drum." And it wasn't until I moved to America that when I moved was in December 93. And I think around 94, 95, there's a friend of mine, Sharon Ann Smith. She goes by Sass, Mother Sharon. She had a gathering at her house. And I went and she had djembe drums everywhere. There were just so many of them. And so people were drumming. And I was like, oh, sure, I would love to drum, but I just like, I don't want to mess up. So, and there were other people drumming who I felt like, I can take them on. In my feeling insecure, I was still feeling like, I'm better than that. But, I developed the courage to something happened. I said, okay, you just bring the drum. Actually, she said, play the drum. She just gave it to me. And I started playing, a little bit nervous. And she was like, oh, you can play. And it's amazing when you're seen. That statement just gave me the confidence to like keep doing it, and I start playing it. And from there on, it's like literally that was like my coming out party. Like, yeah, you are a drummer. Even though I have a friend who said to me, she's in America, she was like, I feel like every African boy, when they're born, they're gifted a drum. Is that how you know how to drum? She'd be messing with me. It's like, I know all you African boys get a little drum when you're born. I'm like, no, actually not. That's not the way it is. So from there, really, the drum, I have over the years, I've come to realize that I am a channel. I am a spirit drummer. I just allow what wants to happen. And with the drumming, I've worked with children, I've worked with young people, I've worked with adults, I've worked with the elderly, done spiritual conferences. And what happens? What happens for people when they hear it? I've had people say to me, I can always tell when you're drumming. Sometimes when I hear you drum, it's like there are many people drumming. And I'm like, really? It's almost a surprise to me. So the feedback and the affirmation that I receive has just supported me in trusting the gift. Trusting the gift. Our natural gift sometimes is kind of, we're like, yeah, I feel like I can do it, but I didn't go to school for it, or I don't have a trainer. But we have a gift. It just needs it's seeking expression. So for me, the drumming, that's my drumming experience, where literally it was in me. I just needed to find the confidence or have somebody affirm me so I can birth it. And now I love it. I love how people feel when I love how I feel when I'm drumming. I love it when people are giving the feedback of how it loosens the energy. It's like, okay, God, let's keep doing this. So for me, it's just a gift that I'm constantly always grateful for. And I do forget about it. Like the drum is around and I can go a whole week without drumming, and then I catch myself like, what are you doing? You know what this does to you. So sometimes it's easy to take the gift for granted too. So there's a discipline that comes with being having a gift that's natural, which, especially I do other things. That's not the only thing I do. But if that was the only thing I do, I think it's a lot easier to kind of drum every day. But I have to bring myself back to the middle. I come back to the middle. Remember the drum, because there's so much involved in the drumming for me.
Can you share with us, Ade, because you touched on it a couple times, and I was thinking about it and preparing to have this dialogue with you about the impact of the drum on you. How has it? Can you say more about how has it impacted your spirit and,
Wow.
you?
That's a great question. I don't think anybody ever asked me that question. So when I think about it, it is. I was thinking about this when I was drumming, well before you and I talked. That when I'm drumming, I'm connecting with the divine, because the skin is from an animal. The other part of the drum is part of a tree. So I'm connecting to all that God is. So when I'm drumming, I'm not just moving my hands on this thing called a drum. I'm connecting with an expression of God that is a life force. The skin from the animal covered the animal's part. It was a living, breathing creature. The tree is a living, breathing creature. So for me, when I'm drumming, I feel like he brings me into that place of unity, oneness. Like I'm connected, which allows me to then say, move yourself out of the way. Because there are times when I start getting my head, I'm like, I start thinking about the patterns that I'm doing and like, no, do this or that. It's like, stop, just get out of there. This is not your business. You're just a channel. So what it does, it really allows me to come out my head. And the other thing that I so love, and I think a lot of drummers will tell you this, is when I'm drumming and someone or two people or three people are dancing, oh my God, there is no way to describe it. It's orgasmic. It's a dance. It's a ebb and flow. It's a giving and receiving. So the movement when someone is dancing, they infuse me. Sometimes it causes me to do something with the drum that I've never done before. Sometimes I find that if I'm drumming and people are just kind of sitting, nodding their head or moving side to side, it's like, yeah, it's cool. But if someone gets up and start dancing, oh, it's like a call and response. They don't even have to look at me. So I'm feeling goosebumps as I talk about this. It has really trained me into trusting the voice, trusting the rhythm, trusting spirit through and as me. I never have to feel like, oh, what am I going to do now? When I start playing, I usually will put my hand on the drum, my hands on it, and just kind of rest it there for a minute. Almost like, I'm here. What are we going to do? And sometimes I don't know where I'm going to go. Sometimes it may be a fast beat, because I tell people I'm a spirit drummer. Some people would say, do you know so-and-so? No, I don't. You play it, I'll ad-lib. I just surrender. It really helps me to surrender. And thank you for that question because it's helping me be introspective and reflective about the experience that I have when I'm drumming, which I'm not always conscious of because I'm in the moment. And so this question allows me to see for myself what happens in the moment. I become one with the one. And yeah, whew.
Yeah, and I've witnessed that firsthand. I'm always amazed when I see you drum. I witness you. You'll rest your hand on the drum and you'll settle in your spirit before you start playing. And then when your hands are moving on the drum, I want our audience to know, I've never seen this before. You know, as a drummer, at A's, your hands, they don't even look like they're moving, right? It's like it literally looks like something is moving through you, like spirit is moving through you. And the way you're able to bathe people in the rhythm. And when you said that, it reminded me of we were at a conference together once, Interplay annual meeting, and Kelsey, who is a journalist, a writer, and a dancer, you know, requested that you bathe her in your drum. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes.
So it was interesting that you would, use that as, to express how you share your drumming. And, part of this art and well-being podcast series, one of the reasons I wanted to do art and well-being is because I feel there is a separation sometimes between art and wellness, or we consider ourselves, I know one thing you and I have in common, we consider ourselves to be healers. And I see your drum as one of your tools that you use. And so I just wanted to, center this conversation around how art is used in the healing process. And I want to share this quote with you because I'd love to hear your take on it. It's from Robert Redford, the actor director. And I found it when I was doing some research through Americans for the Arts. And the quote is, and it was shared at this time during the global pandemic, and it says, "The country is so wounded, bleeding, and hurt right now. The country needs to be healed. It's not going to be healed from the top politically. How are we going to heal? Art is the healing force," right? So,
Yes.
how do you see your drum as a force for healing?
Whew. The quote and the energy behind the quote it makes me emotional. touches me at such a deep level. And part of what I'm feeling is because of white supremacy and the way that the minds of black people have been colonized, it has disconnected us from whew, it has disconnected us from the healing that the world needs. I remember once hearing a brother talking when I was in Atlanta, talking about yeah, black people are talented. We do more than just drumming. We do more than just dancing. And it's true, but the way he was saying it, I sense a sort of judgment of the drumming and the dance because white people have made it be something evil. But when Africans were enslaved, they knew the power of it, and they still know the power of it. That's why they didn't want enslaved Africans to drum, because they might not be able to say what's going on, but they know there was something going on because intuitively they knew. So art and healing and drumming, it's necessary because it's about sound, it's about rhythm, it's about tone, it's about chanting, it's about movement, it's about storytelling. Art taps us into our heart. Healing happens in the heart. It's not an intellectual thing. And the I don't want to say the only way, but we can integrate the healing when we join the intellect with the heart. The heart knows it all. So when you are chanting, when you are humming, when you hear a tone, when you hear the sound, the rhythm from a drum, it goes beyond. There are times when I do workshops, I notice that I'm so nervous. And eventually I learned how to use that nervousness to help me because I try to push it down. And over the years, I realized, no, don't suppress the nervousness. Allow it. Bring it closer. It's energy that will help you. And it got me to a place where sometimes, even my radio shows, I used to say, I'll start a show and I'm nervous. And I find that when I express it and say, whew, I don't know why I'm nervous, or I am nervous, it just takes all the resistance. It just dissolves. So after a while, it occurred to me that when I do my workshop, whatever I'm doing, even if they didn't ask for a drum or a drummer, to bring my drum with me. And when I drum, it settles my mind, my heart, and then when I finish, I need a moment, and from that place, it's takeoff. What's going on in the world today will not be healed from the head up. And we try to do it from the head up. So we have all these talking heads on the media network. And yeah, some of them access their heart. I won't say they don't. But there's a lot of up from the neck up conversation. And we get into debates. But when you get to the heart, when you bring the heart involved, the heart, the art, even in the heart, there's art in it. The word art in it. So that should tell us something. HEART. That's it right there. That's the wisdom. So art connects us with the heart. So whether you're talking about politics, whether it's about racial inequity, injustice, when you allow your heart to speak, we will find ourselves having different conversations. And for me, the healing that is needed requires that more of us be willing to be uncomfortable, comfortable. Like, it feels uncomfortable to express your heart, but we must be willing to get comfortable with that uncomfortability and speak from the heart. Art connects us with our essence. It connects us. It activates the wisdom in us. It activates the answer to the issue that we're dealing with. when we forget that we are all artists, every one of us, because we were birthed, we were created from the creator. There is no separation between the creator and the created. There is this thing that joins this energy, this vibe, this vibration. It's creativity. And art is the way to bring about healing in the way that's even far beyond what I thought was going to happen. And we must be willing to be uncomfortable in order to bring healing. And with art, it takes us to that place where sometimes when someone is just being they're tapping into their Karen consciousness, you know, and you tune in. Maybe you might just want to hum. That would scare them away, first of all. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? don't, never mind, don't give me your ID anymore, because I don't know what you're doing. You're scaring me. And then run away. But in tapping, maybe it's a chant. Maybe it doesn't have to be a chant or hum. And it could be that. But when we remember, we might just have the right response for the person. And it may be a question that we ask them. Because sometimes we respond to people based on memory. Like, I see what you're doing. You're doing this because I'm black. Of course they're going to say, it had nothing to do with it. I've never seen you on this premises before. That's why I just need to know if you belong here. And I'm not even judging the fact that even if we say you're doing this because I'm black, but if we allow art is an expression of the heart. And we go back to that place. And it takes practice. It takes practice, spiritual practice, to get still so we can tap into the vibration of the heart. So everything becomes an expression of our heart because we remember that we are artists. Whether you're a cook, whether you're a police officer, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a mother, whether you're working in a grocery store, you're an artist. We all are. And when we remember that, art becomes an everyday thing. And we remember that's the medicine that we need to heal whatever we're dealing with.
Wow, that is well said, Ade. Well said. And, as you were speaking, I was having in my imagination, could you just imagine if the sessions on Capitol Hill started with, "Good morning, Speaker of the House."
That's right. Some rhythm.
If decisions were made, from a creative place in the center of the heart. So I love that imagery and I love that truth. I was curious about when you were speaking about your comrades when you were in your youth and the drum was involved. You mentioned Yoruba, and I'm curious about Yoruba culture and how that influenced you as a drummer, if it has had any influence at all.
Oh my God. Without having evidence to prove it, I would say without a doubt, it is truly my ancestors speaking through me. And what's interesting about the question you're asking me is, when you grow up in a place, it's just a place you grew up in. I remember when I was living in Atlanta, people would say to me, "Why did you come to America? So you were in England and you came over here? Why?" And they have this expression like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Why not?" And I also remember when I was living here and I met a brother from America, and he was working with I was driving the double-decker buses, and he was what we call an inspector, checking people's tickets. And he came, he got on my bus, and then I realized he was American. I'm like, why are you here? Why would you come to England? I'm going somewhere with this story. And he was actually the catalyst for me, like, looking to go to America, funnily enough. So growing up in Nigeria, it's just a place I grew up in. I didn't feel anything about it. I wasn't feeling like, oh, I love my culture. It was none of that. It was just where I grew up. So it wasn't until I got to America that I started to look back to my own heritage, to understand the lessons and the culture, the traditions, the experiences that I've had, and just the food. Because before it was just something that I didn't put a lot of thought in. So through my experience of moving from Nigeria back to UK and then eventually in America, I realized, first of all, the whole thing about ancestry wasn't something, the conversation I had on a daily basis. So I never really thought anything about ancestors. I mean, there are some things that was part of our everyday thing that I just took for granted. But it was when I moved to Atlanta that I started to see that I'm carrying forward the work of my ancestors, their prayers, their desires, their intent, their vision, in ways that I don't have words to express. I just feel like I get to experience it and other people get to experience it. And Nigerians, particularly as a Yoruba man, I'll speak for that, to speak to that because that's who I am. We have a passion, and we even have a sort of confidence that borderline on arrogance. We just like, this is what it is, and I used to shy away from that. I used to separate myself from that, but I now, as a older person, older person. Like, I couldn't find a word. It's like older man, matured man. That didn't feel right. But I don't even like older, but that's what came up. But who I am now, I'll be 53 in March. There's a part of me that has settled into my heritage. That is settled with talking about ancestors and talking to my ancestors and listening to my ancestors. There's a part of me that's so settled in it that I can call on the experiences that I can't even put in words. And I'm in a place where I now appreciate how my ancestors, our culture, saw God in everything, in nature, even though it was demonized. So I wonder sometimes when I say things, I ask myself or think, where did that come from? I don't know, but what I can say is, when that moment I can say, I don't know where it came from, but what I feel in my bones is, this is coming from a deep place, from generation before generations after generation. People have come before me that continue to express. And so growing up in Nigeria, when we went back, I was in Nigeria for 14 years before I moved back to UK. I marinated in an indigenous wisdom without even knowing it. And really what I'm doing now is expressing that as I trust it more and more. And sometimes I do feel uncomfortable because I'm like, do people really want to hear about this? There is you and I are part of an organization, and usually we're on the board meeting and on the one of the board members, and sometimes this conversation that's happening seems to go over my head. I'm like, okay, it feels right. And so much so that I was thinking about maybe I need to step down because I don't think I'm useful. And then we had some experience where I was sort of like one of the catalysts to like, let's talk about what's going on here. And one of the feedback that I got was they appreciate the fact that I bring heart to it. And that touched me so deeply because the heart that I was told that I brought to it, though I know that's how I show up, it's also, there are times when I judge that. So being able to be affirmed, and in that affirmation, there was a confirmation of how I express and how it's needed. It just makes me settle into just be you, be who you are. Show up, open your mouth, and the words will come out. I write, but I find like I blow myself away when I speak. I was telling someone yesterday. I was working at a radio network, One Two Radio, many years ago, and they will always ask for an advertisement for the show to promote it. And then I sit down to write, and I'm thinking, peace and blessings, beautiful people. You are listening. Oh, no, 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 no. Peace and blessings, beautiful people. Okay, wait, it's not coming. I've got a block here. And then I'll just hear I'll get a nudge. Like, get the microphone out. Open your recording software. And I just get in front of the mic. Peace and blessings, beautiful people. This is Ade, your host of Soul Food for Your Consciousness. And the words are coming out of me, and I'm like, oh, I like this. And so much so that I would take the recording, and transcribe what I said, and then play with that. So something about being able to open my mouth and and trust in it, of course, and letting the words come out blows me away. And I know that's just not of my own doing. That's coming from my ancestors. So how has it influenced me? It's how I show up right now. I know that's a long way to answer that question, but I needed to give the backstory. But who I am today is influenced by my culture, my tradition, and those who came before me.
Yes, I love it, and so many men should be so fortunate, that yourself, from the work we did at Trinity House, we had the honor and privilege of working with men together,
Yes.
homeless men in transition, every Monday for 3 years. And I know that had to have an impact on you. And I'm interested because, speaking about art and well-being, how you how you feel about that experience and were able to help the well-being of those men. And we'd just love to hear you speak as a teaching artist about having your medicine drum in the circle and helping men to evolve.
Whew. Speaking of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, you're asking some really great questions. It's like, oh my God, are we going there? And you keep coming with them one after the other. It's like, woo wee. The work with the brothers at Trinity House. I am so grateful for that work. I'm grateful to be a part of it, to work with you and Jennifer, because it healed my judgment of people who have different types of addictions. People who are homeless, or like my mentor liked to say, people without home. Because we say the homeless. It kind of separate us from them, the homeless. Those, but if we say people without homes, it causes us to ask a different question. People without homes, how is that possible? Then we could be part of the shift. I digress. So it's like, as much as most of us would say, oh yeah, I have compassion for the homeless, for people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol and whatever the case may be, we can have compassion intellectually, but when your compassion is infused with your heart, it's a different kind of conversation. And I would have said, yeah, I'm compassionate. I appreciate the brothers. But it was in living with them for that 1.5 hours and being with them and hearing the experience. It changed me because I realized how I have separated myself from them. Those people over there, I'm not like them. And so when I drum, some of them, it's the whole thing that we were doing. The interplay thing was new to them because it's art, it's movement, storytelling. It's about expressing yourself in the way that honors who you are. It was uncomfortable because some of them were not used to that. So when we do what we did, and when I was drumming, and some of them would just move in their seat, even though they came in sort of looking like, I really don't want to be here. They look like they don't want to be there. And you start to see a smile. And then maybe the same person who was a little bit resistant will get up, start doing some dance, and everybody's laughing. And it just breaks down the energy. It's almost like bringing fire to an ice cube. You're just slowly watching it melt. You see it, watch it melt, it becomes water, and everything starts to touch. They start to connect with one another, and they break out into a rap. They want to play the drum. They come next to me, or they sing. It opens up something. By the time they finish, they're lifted up. Yeah. One of the great master teachers, JC, Jesus the Christ, said, "If I be lifted up, I will draw all men and women unto me." When we share our gift, whatever that looks like, I don't want anybody saying, "Well, really, I don't drum, so I don't know if I can do that." No, sometimes just your presence, just your smile, sometimes just your silence. Carolyn, Renée, you do that silence very well. You just show up in a space and you just look. And I love it's like, Carolyn, Renée, what do you think? And you're just like, well, and you drop it. It's like she's been listening. So what we bring to a group is a gift for us all. So for me, watching the brothers just transform right before my eyes helped me appreciate the gift that I was bringing them and appreciate the transformation that happened through them, knowing that they would never be the same. They looked forward to the drumming, which made me have to step up. Like, there's not that I was, but there was no chance for me to say, I don't know if I want to drum today. They were looking for it. They, like, if I came in there kind of like, I don't know, they were like, what? You didn't bring the drum? They were expecting it. They would ask me, where am I from? And some of them would say, this is the first time I met somebody from Africa. I mean, the gift makes a way for us, and it opens doors, and it connects us, and it heals us. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing those words. And I want to see if we might be able to get a snippet of that drumming from you.
We could do that.
Then I have a few questions.
Well, guess what? I have my drum right next to me, so I think the drum knew what was going to happen. Like, I want to get close to you because something's going to happen. So I want to invite listeners, if you're driving, of course you can do it. Well, you can sort of connect with your heart and just be aware of your breath. Recognize your breath as it comes in and goes out. You're breathing in, you're breathing out. The truth is, you're not doing it. Something else is doing it, right? So you're connecting to that thing that is breathing you.
Ooh, wow. Thank you so much, Ade. That's just so powerful. Your drumming. Thank
Thank you.
you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right
Thank
from
you.
the heart into our hearts.
Yes.
Yes.
Right from our
So,
heart into our heart, all in the name of art.
okay. And well-being. How about that?
Yes. Yes. Ooh, we're getting a rap going on here.
Okay, don't get us started because you know we do that.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So I wanted to, I call this a speed round, right? So I'm going
Okay.
to, an interplay, that's something you and I share in common. And there's a tool and it's called Easy Focus. And it's like when something comes at you, spitfire, instead of getting anxious, you gather up all the little thinky, the nervousness, the, oh, no. And you just gather it in the center of your third eye, and then you wee it away, right? Or
Whoosh.
you push it away, or you wash it away into the waters. So
That's it.
this is a speed round, and
Okay.
so I brought all that in so that you can get out your head and stay in your
Yes, I
heart.
needed that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is really a quick answer situation. So, what personal healing modality is your go-to when you face challenges?
Meditation.
What's your current passion project?
Oh. Ooh. I. It's actually ancestral work. Ancestral work, and there's an event that I'm going to be doing this year. So really reconnecting people with their ancestry and developing a relationship, because it's the root. It's what is we are the tree and our ancestors are the roots. So when we connect, we can stand strong no matter what, no matter if it's windy, stormy, rainy, we stand strong. So yes, the ancestral work.
What gift has the pandemic brought to you?
The ability to trust even if I don't know how things are going to turn out.
And this is real easy. How can people connect with you?
Tune into your heart. They can go to my website, lifecoachade.com, lifecoachade.com. I'm on Facebook as well, Life Coach Ade. You can see it. I'm on Instagram, on Twitter. I have a podcast every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, called Ade Presents Being You, which streams on Facebook and YouTube. On YouTube, it's youtube.com/LC Radio. LC Radio.
Wonderful. Ade, thank you so much for being here with us at the Arts Exchange. And, before we head out, I do want to share with our listeners, what's up at the Arts Exchange. And we have been living in this reality of the global pandemic like everyone else. So unfortunately, we have had to close. We are an event space, and we have not been able to really have anything going on inside of our building. Most of the activities we've had have been outside, and so are outdoors. So the gift of the pandemic for the Arts Exchange is we have created virtual programs for our audience, and audience and listeners can take advantage of those programs at artsexchange.org, and also follow us on social media. And our social media handle is hashtag ArtsExchangeATL. And the other thing we are doing is developing our outdoors. So as soon as it gets warm again, we have festivals, we have an outdoor artisan market, and the biggest thing happening here at the Arts Exchange is this podcast. Thanks to our co-founder, I should say, and current board president, Miss Alice Lovelace, who gifted us the name Art Shouts. Alice is really a visionary, and we love her. And this series is in honor of our founder, Iban Dooley, who was an artist, activist, and community leader. So we invite you to catch Art Shouts every Friday. And this Friday, February 5th, this broadcast with Ade will air. And I want to leave you with this. The late great poet, Dr. Maya Angelou, said, I've had so many rainbows in my clouds, recalling the people who showed her kindness when life got tough. The poet encourages us all to be a blessing to somebody. And so I thank you for joining me today for Art Shouts, Art and Well-Being.
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Shake your body, shake your body, shake your body.
The theme music for Art Shouts, Art and Well-Being series provided by artist healer Soyinka Rahim from her Bebo Love CD, title cut Bebo Funk. Bebo, breathe in, breathe out.